said, my name's Kevin Bryan. I was asked to be the moderator here today. I never met any of you, so I like to think I'm pretty independent here. I am a New Tecumseth resident. I don't live in Ward 7, or sorry, I don't live in Ward 6. I do live in Ward 7, but just south of Beaton. I'm on the 6th line so we do a lot of our business here in Beaton. So certainly of interest to us, which one of you moves forward. I was a retired police officer. You'd like to think that's brave. Well, for me, brave is putting your name up for public office. To me, that's really bravery. So, thank you very much for doing that, and good luck to all of you. So I'll just start out on my left. We have Brandon Kyte. Next to Brandon, we have Nicole Cox, and on the end of the table, we have Doug Kowalinski, the three candidates for Ward 6 in the 2022 municipal election. So I'm going to start out, Brandon, if you could just introduce yourself.
Well, good evening, everybody, for attending and allowing me to present my platform tonight. As you now know, my name is Brandon Kyte. I am a candidate running for Ward 6 Councillor in Beaton in the upcoming New Tecumseth municipal election. A little bit of background on me. I grew up in the north end of Brampton, where I completed all my education through to the end of high school until deciding to further my post-education, studying business administration with a minor in finance from Humber College. Professionally, I began my career with Municipal Maintenance Inc. in Schaumburg in 2012. I've worked my way up to the current position of Senior Project Manager and Estimator. In my current role, I am responsible for managing all capital works, litter collection maintenance projects throughout Toronto, Mississauga, and the rest of the GTA, totaling over $23 million in business each year. In 2015, I met my now wife, Nicole. We moved to Beaton together in 2017, where we have laid a foundation and roots, bringing a beautiful baby girl into this world. Brooklyn, who was actually born at Stevenson Memorial 11 months ago, and Nicole and I got married at City Hall in the council chambers. We as a family strive to shop local in Beaton, and we're proud to support local as much as we can. Each year, we look forward to attending as many local events like the Beaton Fall Fair and Honeyfest as much as possible. I actually decided to run for council back in May of this year. Start a little later than my counterparts here. Out of a desire to give back to this community I now call home. I have chosen to grow my family in. I believe I am a very competitive candidate for the position of Ward 6 Councillor, and that I have a lot to offer my constituents in Beaton. My career has allowed me to gain extensive experience with the functioning of inner workings of municipalities, most noticeably with the business side of them, navigating the tender process, managing large capital construction projects, building relationships with councillors and city staff at multiple levels, and ensuring the thoughts and concerns of residents are heard. My family has established its roots in Beaton because we believe this is a wonderful community and a fantastic place to live. My driving force as councillor will be to ensure that this town's values, with its unique qualities and hometown feel, are upheld and fought for this generation and many after it to experience and enjoy. I want to thank you all for coming tonight. Miss Millen for setting this event up, and our moderator, Kevin, for taking part in.
Thanks very much there, Brandon. Appreciate that. We'll move on to Nicole Cox now.
Hello, my name is Nicole Cox. I've been a resident of Beaton for the entire 42 years of my life. My parents, John and Maureen, still reside in the house I grew up in on English Drive. And along with my husband, Dan, we're raising our two sons at our home on Dugdale Avenue. 8 years ago, I was called into politics to coordinate an effort to save the Beaton Woods, a small tract of forest that was a special place to many residents of our town. This forest was being cut by a developer, posing as a farmer, and avoiding our town's tree preservation bylaw and planning process. This was an eye-opening experience for me that led to many more opportunities to advocate for our community. I believe in order to efficiently advocate, I needed to invest my time and participate. I believe I'm dedicated, and I've dedicated my time to helping bring awareness to municipal affairs, educating myself and being an active presence at all town meetings, sharing and summarizing the meetings with the public on social media in an effort to promote transparency and accountability with our elected officials and the laws that they pass. This preparation has given me detailed knowledge of the town's affairs and the ability to hit the ground running and avoid any learning curve if elected as the next councillor at Beaton. Thank you.
Thanks, Nicole. Now to Doug Kowalinski.
Good evening, folks. My name is Doug Kowalinski, and I too am a candidate for Ward 6 for the Town of New Tecumseth Municipal Election. Along with my counterparts, I do thank all of you for coming and for the opportunity to speak to you. I'm 57 years old, have lived in Beaton for 20 years with my wife and 2 children. My wife is a community visiting nurse in our area, and our boys have grown up through the public school system, both at Tecumseth Beaton and at Banting Memorial High School. They've both graduated now. I, growing up, attended university with a major in political science and a minor in Canadian government studies. I've always kind of lived and breathed politics, so I've always enjoyed being on top of what's going on. For myself, I kind of believe I'm a boots on the ground type of person. Our time in Beaton has been spent volunteering not only at Tech Beaton, but also on the Simcoe County District School Board for a couple of different committees that lasted for a number of years. I was also school council chair for Tech Beaton, I believe for 10 or 11 years. Going on, I've been a very active participant in our community in terms of minor sports, have coached and been a trainer for the Beaton Stingers, as well as for the New Tecumseth Ball Hockey League and minor baseball. I volunteer extensively throughout our community. For about the last year and a half, I've done quite a bit of work volunteering up at Matthews House Hospice, being a driver for them, and also doing in-home visits as people are along their journeys. Been involved whenever. I always say it's easy to do stuff when the times are good, but when times are struggling and people are having a hard time, I've been able to jump in and, along with others, be able to bring notice to different situations and help people in their time of need. As an occupation, I worked for Canada Post for about 30 years. Did have some labor relations background and was a letter carrier for many years. Other than that, here we are tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, Doug. So each of the candidates will now answer a question I ask. We'll take turns. We'll go in the same order as we've gone, if that's okay. And we'll start out with a question, and we'll start out for Brandon. If elected, what are your top 3 priorities?
Well, I certainly got a lot of priorities, but if I had to nail down 3 of them, first one's going to be I'd love to conduct some more infrastructure maintenance throughout, especially Beaton, and development, infrastructure development, not home development. Infrastructure development to keep up with the apparent population growth that we're going to experience in this new council's term. I want to ensure the town's needs are met without compromising the budget or risking a deficit. And lastly, and really true to my heart, is I want to ensure and maintain Beaton's unique hometown tight-knit atmosphere.
Thanks very much. Nicole, your top 3 priorities?
One of the top priorities for our town is to get our town's finances in check. We're facing a proposed 13% tax increase and double-digit water rate increases. We also have $232 million worth of projects over the next 10 years that are currently slated to be funded entirely by debt. Interest rates are rising, and we need to be aware of how our town's spending will impact everyone, including the most vulnerable in our community. The newly elected council will be thrust into the budget process within the first few weeks of being elected. I plan to scrutinize the budget to keep it under control and make sure that every tax dollar is spent the right way. I feel it's important to require costing of operations for all departments going line by line and increasing opportunity for review and input. We need to focus on utilizing any grants and funding that are available to us. We need to put an emphasis on maintaining our infrastructure to alleviate the high cost of replacing it and find efficiencies within our staff, including the possibility of in-house legal counsel and reducing the number of counselors. My second priority is making sure we have a completed drainage master plan and that the recommendations from that plan are enacted. We all may recall that on June 23rd, 2017, Beaton was hit by a massive 100-year storm that impacted many residents. On Maple Avenue, the residents felt the impact of muddy overland water traveling from the Sorbera lands into their homes. Older parts of town also saw financial impacts due to flooding, and many saw increases to their home's insurance. Concerned citizens came together to advocate for a pause to any additional growth until the drainage mapping from 1963 was rightfully updated through a drainage master plan and that the recommendations from that plan were put in place. However, in a confidential motion coming out of an in-camera meeting on June 16th, 2021, additional growth is now permitted without the drainage study being completed. The drainage plan and the recommendations need to remain a priority for our residents. My third priority relates to growth and servicing. Beaton has seen consistent development impact over the last number of years, and we continue to see council approve growth even without appropriate servicing such as water. Over 2,000 units have received approval to be built in Beaton. 2,000 units that come with no guarantee to provide affordable housing. We are told in reports that without development, we will be without the amenities we want. But we're witnessing development charge funding being earmarked for projects and then being used to accommodate for the shortfall in funding for unrelated projects. There needs to be more certainty that Beaton will see the benefits of this growth being allocated to us. Our need for an updated recreational facility is not a white elephant, as it was referred to during the long-range debt presentation in 2021. Resurfacing a road with taxpayer money and then approving it as a haul route for over 13,000 dump trucks is not an appropriate use of taxpayer money. And passing development agreements when they are absent of over $1 million in required parkland or cash in lieu is a disservice to Beaton's children and our community as a whole. If elected, I'll prioritize for Beaton's level of servicing to reflect our level of growth.
Doug?
Thank you for the opportunity. And I apologize, I've got allergies, so I'm sniffling a bit. Sorry about that. You'll probably find that a lot of our priorities remain somewhere close in line. My first priority is definitely growth within New Tecumseth, but certainly within the boundaries of Ward 6. We've allowed far too much to be approved. We don't have what is necessary to handle that growth, and we're going to be putting the cart before the horse more and more as time goes on. We need regulated growth. We don't need growth handed to us by the provincial government We need to have a say, a stronger say, both at the county level, the provincial level, and certainly within New Tecumseth. I also agree that infrastructure is a huge issue in all of New Tecumseth, dealing with Ward 6. Certainly our roads, Dayfoot is an example, for a number of years now. It's been for my 20 years in town, it's been a terrible situation. I've been promised by elected officials for 20 years that the money was in the bank and that the road was going to be rebuilt, and it still isn't. Water infrastructure, wastewater money, the master drainage plan, these are all parts of our infrastructure program that need to be really tightly dealt with instead of just, I don't want to say lip service, but at the end of the day, the developers have been able to run amok, and we've been left holding the bag. My third priority is actually programming and services, and this brings into line the Beaton Arena and the new proposed community center. Being involved with minor hockey and a member of FAB for a number of years, we know that the time for a new arena is certainly well past. At this point, the need is here, the growth is here to be able to justify a new community center here in Beaton. DCs are now going to cover part of that cost. We need to be able to stand up, and taking that to the next level is the programming aspect. Being deeply involved with the arena for a number of years, part of my issue has been that the town seems to be apprehensive to have more programming going on in a third center, to be able to offer other things during the day. I know there's been discussion as to that being the reasoning that a walking track would possibly not be available, that a gym would possibly not be available, because then you would have to staff the community center much like you do in Tottenham and Alliston. Lastly, in terms of that, I just bring to your attention a few years ago, the Christmas display at the Beaton Arena was a broken Christmas tree, and they kept taping the legs up year after year after year. We finally got a new Christmas tree for the lobby, but if you compare our facility to the facilities in Tottenham and Alliston, it's far from adequate and far from fair. Thank you.
Thanks very much. We're going to move on to the second question, and it's a little bit, I got some reading to do here. So, New Tecumseth is forecasted to grow by 35,000 people over the next 30 years, an almost 80% increase in the current population. My page cut off. What is your vision for where and what kind of housing should be built to accommodate this growth? And should the amount of land that is dedicated, I forget the number of hectares, maybe one of you has it, 450 hectares, should we maybe perhaps condense that to a lesser number? And again, if it's okay, we'll start again with you, Brandon.
So I do not support nearly doubling the population in the next 30 years. I'm just going to get that out of the way right now. I'd look for a way to slow that growth down over a longer period of time. We're not ready. However, if you're going to force me to answer on the forecasted people of growth, and it's unavoidable, I would propose building low to medium rise condominiums or apartment buildings, making that a priority along the main corridors of New Tecumseth, such as Highway 89, Highway 27, Highway 9. And because I say that, that's to ease congestion that we already all see in Alliston, Tottenham, and Beaton. Of course, homes will be built over time within the major communities and on land that's sold off in rural areas. But hopefully, with taking a priority to build more upwards, we can save a lot of land used for farming, cattle, and wildlife.
Thanks very much. Nicole?
Housing built to accommodate growth should reflect our municipality's specific needs. And the growth is coming because we are passed down that growth from the province. In order to get this right, we need to work with the local organizations and people on our front lines so that we get the right type of growth to meet our needs. We seem to be lacking housing types in our town, especially when it comes to affordable housing. We need more diverse dwellings, such as 1 and 2 bedroom units and garden suites. And this can be achieved by building upwards and intensifying our current boundaries. This could alleviate the need for unnecessary boundary expansion and the risk of urban sprawl. We need to take advantage of our zoning bylaws to add provisions that require new residential developments include affordable housing units that are compatible with our existing homes and neighborhoods. By reducing the amount of land required for growth, we can also reduce our town's overall servicing and infrastructure costs.
Thanks, Nicole. Doug?
Thank you. I would just start by saying not in my backyard, and that's unfortunately the position that a lot of people in New Tecumseth and everywhere else want to feel. Do they want higher density housing in their area? Do they want condos in their backyard? It's a tough call. I totally agree that the need is there to have more affordable housing. I think it's going to be a really hard thing to come to an agreement with. The example of the condos on Dayfoot at Daniel Gate kind of come to mind there. The buildings were within the regulations, and there was still a lot of pushback. And again, not in my backyard. In terms of density, I totally agree that we do need to have it, but we also need to think about the infrastructure that is going to be needed for that. If we're going to run it along Highway 9 or Highway 89, my guess is that Tottenham Road would be even further congested because of that. So I think having the idea of increased population density is still going to come with headaches that we're going to have to wrap around this particular question. We're already deemed as a growth node by the province of Ontario. The pressure is coming from above, depending where in Simcoe County, but we're the closest to the GTHA. And at the end of the day, we're going to probably be the ones that take the biggest increase first. Would I like to see less land used up? 100% I would. The land has been sold in a number of areas already, so it's going to create issues. These are things that have been going on for decades now, where developers have been involved in buying up property and land leasing back. And it's going to be a tough haul. Thank you.
Thanks, Doug. And tonight's final question that we're going to ask each of the candidates is, we'll start again with Brandon. Brandon, could you identify 3 positive things that the previous town council has implemented and that you intend to build upon, and 3 things that you would like maybe to change?
So actually, I came across a bylaw to authorize the execution of earthworks agreement with the Corporation of the County of Simcoe to facilitate the pre-grading of the Simcoe Manor site at 5988 8th line, beaten earlier this year. This is an example of something that Town Hall has completed that will genuinely help the community. expanding Simcoe Manor, especially when residents of our community are getting older. It's great in my eyes. I would actually also like to compliment council on some of the infrastructure upgrades and revitalization they've attempted to complete. I think it's much needed. The sewer, water main, sidewalk, curbs, roadways, main streets. These things are things that I would intend to build on when financially and fiscally responsible to do so. Certain examples that I would have changed or would have voted no to is the way the administration building is being built. In my eyes and in my experience, renovating a current structure to suit the needs of our admin building was always going to bring on a large extra cost through change orders. Mistakes are always made by town engineers and project managers, under projecting and submitting incorrect drawings. When it gets to change orders by the contractor, it's like giving a blank check. Another real big issue for me is this Beaton tennis court. This was tendered out in 2021 and was accepted to be removed and rebuilt from scratch for $205,000 plus a contingency of $10,000 for a total project cost of $215,000. This project was out, like I said, in 2021, but didn't start until this year, September. In June of this year, the Herald reported the inflation was pushing the cost of the capital projects higher. This tennis court is now costing $95,000 extra. Simple math tells me that that tennis court is now $300,000. When residents are looking at a 13% increase on taxes this upcoming year, not a choice I would make.
Thanks very much there, Brandon. Nicole?
The three things that the previous council has implemented that I intended to build upon was that this term in council, they passed a motion to support electronic voting at meetings. Knowing how council has voted on issues makes it, residents be able to hold the elected officials more accountable. How I'd improve upon that, though, is that under the bylaw, the public's only made aware of council members voting on record if the vote is called for a recorded vote. To expand upon this, I'd like to see all voting on agenda items be transparent and the voting record of all elected officials made public, so we can hold them more accountable to what they're voting on. Residents deserve better when it comes to safety on our roads. In 2021, council approved a traffic calming pilot project for Shepherd Avenue in Alliston, which was a great decision. This involved the installation of temporary speed bumps. I'd like to see this project extended to Beaton. We've seen an influx of dump truck traffic and poor sight lines in areas where our children cross on their way to school. We need to be proactive to make sure accidents don't happen. The 2022 budget saw council add a one-time contribution of $350,000 to the Beaton Arena Facility Replacement Fund. But we also saw the project increase from a cost of $18.6 million in 2018 to over $29 million in 2021. The numbers seem to be changing by the day. $17 million of this cost is covered by development charges. We need to make sure Beaton is provided with a level of servicing that reflects the level of growth we're seeing, and that these development charges remain available when the project is ready to move ahead. When it comes to the three things that I'd like to see change, number one would be our even-numbered council. This problem was most evident during the voting for the new administration center. Completing an unbiased ward boundary review and moving to an odd number of council would mean no more tie votes and one less salary to pay. Number two would be to reduce the number of red line revisions being passed in favor of developers. Maintaining the benefit to residents as laid out in our development agreements. Currently, the West Country development in town, there's a proposal to build 8 homes in a space that was slated for passive green space and parkland in the subdivision agreement. Apart from the many benefits that green space provides, surrounding homeowners and residents making one of life's most expensive purchases should be confident that the plans that impacted their choice to purchase are not going to be overturned by council to benefit a developer's bottom line. Number 3, I'd like to see better communications happening between the town and public. Community meetings for issues that impact us the most need to be brought back to our towns. A resident should not feel that they have to conduct a hunger strike on our town steps to be heard. Council members should not be watching hockey games during deputations or expressing that their minds are already made up before hearing from the public. Residents need to have a representative that listens to them, communicates their wishes effectively in chambers, and I hope to have the opportunity to be that voice for everyone here tonight.
Yep, Doug, go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry.
thank you. Again, some of the points have already been brought up, but I'd like to bring a couple of things that are maybe a little bit more behind the scenes. I think some of the town's committees that have run during the last term of council have been a positive for all of our community. I've had the pleasure of being on the Accessibility Advisory Committee, and I think that we've tried to make a difference, and I hope it has showed out in the community. I think it's been a long time coming, and it's got a whole lot more work to do, but the fact that the water issue, which is, as far as I'm concerned, number one for all of New Tecumseth, is for everybody to have clean drinking water. The fact that that started and is at some point of completion in some people's minds. I think having mixed water doesn't resolve the situation entirely, but I think it's a good start to moving forward. I also believe that we need to keep working on our doctor retention program, where we know we are short-staffed in our community for doctors, and the opportunity to have some new faces in our community is nothing but a positive for us. Revitalization of our roads and infrastructure. It needs to happen, but it needs to happen according to what the rankings are on the town studies. If there's a reason that something is jumping, there has to be a good reason for it. I use the example of the 6th line and the 10th side road as a huge issue, where there's been we've already had loss of life there, and we need to keep working on that. In a way, with some of the things that happened at this year's council, Nicole mentioned it, in regards to watching hockey and not too sure what was in your glass and stuff like that. In some ways, something good has actually come up, because I think it's woke people up. It's awoken people, sorry. And it's, I hope it's turning people on to recognizing what is important in their community. What happens at the municipal level is the most grassroots that you can look for politics. And I hope that with electronic voting and ideas like that, the level of apathy may change for the positive for us. Thank you.
Thanks very much. It's not on the agenda, but if anybody would like to take a minute to close, just to say goodnight. Want to start out there, Brandon Kyte?
Yeah, I didn't have anything written, but I really do appreciate you guys coming out. I know it's not really happening with many of the other wards. I'm glad it did happen, because now I get to meet some of the people in the community. I'm probably the least known candidate, but I'm glad you all got to meet me and share my platform with you all. So thank you.
Nicole?
I'd also like to thank everyone for being here and thank my candidates for attending, the moderator. I'd like to also say to the audience that I would love the opportunity to represent you all. I'm a great listener. I've been involved for a number of years now, and I'm ready to hit the ground running. Thank you so much.
And I carry on by saying thank you to our moderator and to Carolyn. Thank you for the Legion, and thank you for being here. Thank you for the people that speak to all three of us, whether you're in a store, on a sidewalk, in an arena, in a park at the fair or something. Again, grassroots. This is what municipal is all about. I think ultimately we have to look at the fact that municipal government is offering a public service, and we hope that that public service is being offered in the most efficient and cost-effective way for all of you. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you. Yeah, we can clap now. In closing, again, putting your name forward for public office is a very brave thing to do, and I think Ward 6 is looking pretty strong this year. I'm pretty impressed with all three of the candidates, very impressed. In fact, I'm going to try and talk my wife into moving into Ward 6 in the next few weeks so that I get to vote for one of these. But anyway, so thank you very much for attending. Brandon, Nicole, and Doug, thank you very much for attending. It was really appreciated. Thanks very much.